Welcome to Personal Best. Happy Monday, right here at 1220 WKRS. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about your image. And we got an image consultant coming on, Richard Fowler. I thought this would be kind of a fun topic because, I don't know, a lot of times we all talk about the things we say and the things we do, but there's also a lot of nonverbal communications. We're also going to be talking about that today on our image. So welcome to the show, Richard. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you. It's always fun for me to get all the emails from guests when they're coming on the show because you have quite the background. And you really have been like a political giant as far as helping people kind of produce the right image that they want to produce. And this isn't a political show, so I always like to tell listeners this because a lot of times people tune into my show, they kind of want to hear something more just about, what to wear and what. But I thought what was really interesting is to take a spin on this and how we can use this for our own. I don't know. We all project our own images, even though we're not famous. I mean, it's important to project the image that you're trying to accomplish. So
you're totally correct enough. You're totally correct, and I think I appreciate you calling me a giant. I wouldn't call myself that, but you're indeed correct. I think it's very important, not only as politicians, but as just as everyday people, that we project our own image. Whether you're a PTA mom, a soccer mom, or President Barack Obama, it's really important that you project the image or what you want people to think about you. You project that.
Now, I like that you talk about being a PTA mom because I think a lot of us always think the image is solely for work, but that's not necessarily true. It can be for, like you said, doing things within your school or personally. So tell us a little bit about what got you started in this, because I always find it's interesting how people get in their careers.
Well, the truth be told, after graduating university, I said to myself, okay, so I really enjoy politics and I really enjoy, fashion. Where do those two things sort of meet in the middle? And I feel as though that it's important. And I just always had a, internal lust of empowering. I love people that empower people. I like people who are empowered to change their world and change their lives. And so I thought that, image consulting would be a very good medium. And I just really sort of I went headfirst into it. And I'm just happy that I have the ability to change how people are perceived, and empower people.
Now, when you talk about that, is it solely done through dress, or is it also done by coaching them, with speech training and different things?
Oh, but I think image is more than just dress. I think that's a big part of it. But you're right; it is about speech training and messaging and what message you portray and what message do you portray, or what do people think you portray, which is completely two different things. I think when one is talking, you think you're portraying this tone, but the listener is hearing something completely different. So it's very good to sort of know what your listener is thinking and know what your listener is hearing, so you can, alter yourself to really project the image that you truly want.
It's so funny that you say that, though, because I remember I was in a class once, and we were doing, it was a really odd class. It was kind of uncomfortable for me because it was about image. And I was laughing because I was trying to tell people what my personality was. And the teacher kept telling me is, you can't tell people what your personality is. They're going to perceive what your personality is. And I really thought that was an important point because a lot of times people try to say, I'm not that way. But if you're being perceived that way, that's who you are to that person.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how you are to that person. And sometimes what we've come to find is that how I break it down on a more theoretical level, I think everybody operates in image frames, and that how you were raised and, your culture and your environment cause you to create frames of images. And when you see certain things, it puts it in a certain space for you, no matter what that person particularly says. Within 3 seconds of you meeting this person, you have made a complete and total personal judgment on them, whether or not you think you have or you have not. And so the question is what are we portraying in those first 3 seconds to make it so that you are portraying the message you want to portray, or the image that you want to portray?
Is it really? Is that like a proven fact? The first 3 seconds? I mean, that is true. I'm trying to think of when I meet people. Did you ever meet somebody, though? I've met people. I have some really good friends, and we'll laugh about it now, that we didn't like each other when we were first met. And I don't know what changed it. I guess we got to know each other as time went along. But, that's where sometimes first impressions really aren't correct, no?
Right. A lot of times, first impressions aren't correct, but I think depending upon where you are, or who your audience is, and the clients that I'm dealing with are they're politicians, and so because they are politicians, the first image means everything, because your first interpretation, first time they knock on your door, the first time you hear them speak, is pretty much the only time they have to rebrand or rejudge themselves or rebrand themselves to you as an individual. So the key is in your first 3 seconds, you make the image that you want to stick with that person for the rest of their lifetime, or until they have another interaction with you that changes that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I wasn't present during this time. It was before my time. But, when you talk about image in politics, it's interesting even when you look back at like the debate on tapes of Kennedy and Nixon, where he was sweating. and how much that affected. I mean, nobody listened to him. They were so concerned. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm actually glad you brought that debate up. That debate is one debate that when I first got into the industry, one debate that I really studied to try to understand the perception of people, and how, even though, no matter what political party you belong to, whether you like Nixon or not, your natural inclination when you saw him was to believe that he was, might have been corrupt. He portrayed the parts of Washington nobody likes. Whereas Kennedy was young, vibrant. He definitely was. They talked about how in the backstory behind that is that Kennedy was wearing makeup, and they made sure that just made him look really good. And Nixon didn't want to do all of that. He didn't want all of the the zhuzhing, as I like to call it. And it showed on the camera, and it showed to the voters.
And that's what's funny is, and maybe you can give us, I always like these inside tips. When you work with political candidates, and you don't have to name who they are, but it'd be interesting to hear, what are some of the preparations that you give people? I mean, like, does their personal taste go into this at all, or do you guys just tell them how to dress?
Well, I think personal taste is very key, and what I do, because you don't want to take somebody too far out of their comfort zone so that they look or feel uncomfortable, because then that will come across. So what you want to do is you want to sort of find a very, very balanced medium, and in that medium, that's where you want to work. And so I spend a lot of time with my clients sort of getting to know them, getting to understand them, what they like to do in their natural environment, and from there, we sort of build a median of where I want them to be and where they want to be, and then we find a nice balance. And in that balance, some of the tips that we use are, color combinations. Color combinations are key beyond the power ties, the red tie. It's also color combinations that show that you're interested, you're comfortable, you're just like everybody else. So I have two things that I tell them. One thing is I talk about the theory of primary colors, and the idea is that you always want to match no matter where you go. And in order to do that, all primary colors, and I include green as one of my primary colors in this particular theory. So you have green as one of the primary colors, which your regular primary colors plus green can go matches any particular bottom that you choose to wear, whether that be khaki, whether that be black, whether that be brown. Those colors will always match those. So you want to always do a primary color that's relatively bright and a darker bottom. You always want to keep your pants darker, just for the sakes of your pants being dark, unless it's like a lighter khaki. And the other tip I always tell them is, you want to find your comfort zone, and you want to know your audience. And knowing your audience dictates a lot of the times what you wear.
Okay. So, like, what if you were a person that's spanning different, I mean, let's say, for instance, you're, 50, and you're going to give a speech to college kids. Do you, I guess, you don't want to dress too young, or it seems odd. Like, how would you tell them to be dressing for that?
You're getting everything out of me without paying the fee, but I love it anyway. But the trick to it is pretty simple. One trick that I like to tell folks, men in particular. So if you're wearing a suit, so you're wearing, a very nice black or navy blue suit, don't wear the tie. Instead of the tie, wear especially in the winter time, in the winter months, wear a sweater vest or a sweater that's a very bright color that pops, because the ideal of the tie is to provide some contrast to a very, simple palette or simple color palette. So you want to wear a sweater or something that provides a little pop, and basically what it says to the viewer is this guy's breaking the rules and that he's not wearing a tie, but he definitely knows he's breaking the rules, and he's comfortable breaking the rules. And so that gives him that comfort feeling, and also makes you feel more inviting and more warm. Whereas in a tie gives you the more stuffy, in I guess we call it in pop culture, I'm more of a square, or I'm trying to sell you something type of thing. The sweater sort of says, hey, I'm just like you. I'm a little bit cooler. I'm not wearing a stuffy tie. I'm not that stuffy. But the caveat to that is if you choose to do that option, you also want to make sure that you're wearing your collar of your shirt has to be very, very, like I call it, you have to have a very stiff collar. Your collar can't be flabby, so you want to iron the collar first to make sure that the collar is, standing upright and it's very clear.
See, I love these tips because I'm going to make you do mine, because I always laugh. We were just talking about this last week. I don't know why, and it's not, I'm heavy set, but it's not really because of that, because even when I was really, really thin, I always liked black. I like to have like a black palette, and then I like to wear jewelry or something bolder on top. Do you think that says something about your personality?
I think it really depends on the person, but I mean, a general synopsis would be that somebody who wears black there, I don't even if it's not true, I think the perception is that person might be a little bit insecure. They're wearing black because they're afraid of what people think about them. It's really hard to say. You can't really assess it based, I don't think every principle applies to everybody, but that would be the inclination.
Really?
So there's definitely ways to fix that. And the way to fix that is, like you said, wearing jewelry. Also, the importance, especially with women, the importance of shoes. Now, shoes can change a whole entire outfit can be changed by a pair of shoes.
They're looking at my shoes in the studio because I'm wearing my black. So you're assessing my outfit right now. Okay, so do you think the shoes are really important then?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you also want to sort of know then again, you want to know your audience. Like, you could take my advice, and you don't want to walk into a corporate boardroom, and then you're wearing all sorts of crazy colors. So black is very appropriate. But the question is how do you make that black work for you? There's definitely ways to do that. Pencil skirts is a great example. Wearing a little longer top, so it sort of hangs under or hangs below the jacket that you're particularly wearing. And also I think it's okay not to wear a jacket and just to wear the skirt and wear, a very bright colored shirt that's a little longer that allows you to sort of slenderize the figure, and, it's easy on the eyes. It gives a nice flow, and that's really important as well. But I think the key is just to sort of assessing where you're comfortable, and then finding out from where you're comfortable what, risk are you willing to take to project that I'm not too comfortable. I'm not too comfortable where I'm sort of stuck in my ways type of thing.
So you could go overboard a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And you never, ever, I think the key is to never go overboard. The key is to just play that very light median. That's the most important thing. And so you want to, even if you're taking a risk, you want to mitigate your risk with something that's very, normal, or very, stuff is wrong, but very normal. So if you plan on wearing a pink tie, you want to make sure that everything else, for a man in particular, if you're planning on wearing a pink tie or a very out there tie, like a pink paisley tie, you want to make sure that all your other elements are calming or more subtle, so that the pink tie shows that you're taking a risk, but everything else says I'm taking a risk for a reason.
Interesting. Okay, well, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to there was an interesting statistic that I'm going to have people guess. Blank percentage of verbal communication is body language and image. Again, blank percentage of verbal communication is body language and image. I think this is an interesting percentage. So stick around. We're here with Richard Fowler talking about image consulting right here at 1220